Hi, this is Rach. Given all the rescues that have recently happened in Tasmania, I'm a bit worried that people are going to be too scared to go out, but I'm also concerned that people are trying to go out with very little gear. I've seen a lot of people doing a lot of unsafe stuff recently on the track that's actually really scared me, particularly at Frenchman's. But I also thought some people are not going to understand, A, that we don't have reception at all in most of our wild spaces in Tasmania, and some people do not understand our weather and how quickly it can change. That song, Four Seasons in One Day, yes, it was written by a band in Melbourne, but it's also Tasmania. And I have seen and argued with a guest who thought that they didn't need their raincoat because it was 30 degrees, and by the end of that day, he was being hailed on. So what do we do? Having said that, that's the first thing. At the very top of your kit, you're always going to have your raincoat. Very quickly can rain come in and just drown you completely. It is going to be a quality raincoat. This is your lifesaver, is your raincoat. I don't care how hot, I don't care middle of summer, whatever. You're going to have a Gore-Tex proof, a good quality raincoat. It's not going to be a poncho and it's not going to be $10 from the nearest cheap shop, all right? It's got to be a proper jacket. You need to invest in that. The other thing, that everything goes into a waterproof bag. If you haven't got a waterproof bag, then please at least grab, so this is a liner, a pack liner, or even a garbage bag would do, but you need to put your gear in this. Again, you don't want your safety gear to get wet. So after that, you need to either have a puffer jacket or a mid layer, and a mid layer is like this. It's a polo fleece jumper, or it might be a thermal of some sort, but you are going to need that. I actually always take a puffer. I walk in a t-shirt even in winter because I get hot, and I take a puffer jacket, and that's because on top of our mountains there's often these winds even in the middle of summer that are quite cold. So puffer jackets have that bonus of also having a beanie. You are also always going to take a beanie even in summer, because the fact of the matter is that it could snow. We've had snow in the middle of winter, absolutely. And so for that matter, some gloves. You'd be surprised how often I've pulled out a pair of gloves and I hate them in the middle of summer. All right, what else are we going to take? In summer, you're going to need a hat and you're going to need sunscreen. Oh, look at that's a bit, doopy on me, but that's my hat. And you're also going to need sunscreen. In fact, the only difference for me in between the gear that I take in winter and in summer is that in winter I don't take a hat and I don't take sunscreen, but I always take beanie and gloves. All right, what else have I got inside here? Well, that's empty. So that's my dry bag, all right? And I'm going to move this gear off because then I'm going to show you the next part of the safety gear. I take a ground sheet when I'm by myself, but when I'm guiding with a group, I take what's called a bivvy, which is an emergency shelter. But your ground sheet is waterproof and pretty good for that. You always, always, always take 2 litres of water. 2 litres. I don't care if you think the track is going to be wet. I've been caught out myself. 2 litres of water as a minimum, and you're going to put that outside of the other gear. So that's not going to go in your dry bag. Believe me, that mistake is often made. All right, what else do I have? I have in there a spare charger for my emergency device and for my mobile phone. Now, iPhone 14 Pros and above have an emergency thing that you can hit for 2 years, only for 2 years. So for 2 years, you could use your mobile phone, as long as it's charged, as an EPIRB. However, and I would also have spare batteries in there for a head torch, which we'll talk about in a minute. But speaking of the InReach Garmin, I carry a Garmin and it tracks me wherever I go. People know where I go, they know where I'm meant to be. This also has an SOS device. If you can't afford one of those, or you haven't got one of those, you're going to go to Service Tasmania if it's a multi-day walk, and you're going to grab one of those. However, I always carry one, even on a short half an hour day. The other bonus of going to Service Tasmania is you can get a map. You're always going to take a hard copy map. Yes, you are, because your powered devices can get wet and not work, and they can also go flat. So remember now, I've got two devices. I've got my phone that can be used in an EPIRB, and on that phone there are also some maps that are through apps like Gaia and All Trails. Now, as well as that, what I want you to know is that your Garmin does not go inside your pack. It goes on the front of your pack, on the front of your body. Most first aid scenarios, you are not going to be able to roll around and grab and try and find your device. It is on the outside of your pack, guys, not on the inside. It's useless on the inside. Now, also as a part of your emergency kit and on the outside, you're going to have a head torch. A head torch is not inside your pack, it's on the outside of your pack with your first aid gear. You can wait up to 48 hours is what we're told to prepare for in order to have, when we hit the EPIRB. We have helicopters, yes, but they're often spread thin across the state. So make sure that you've got a head torch. A whistle. How long do you think you can shout if you're unwell? Do you think you can even shout? So you need a whistle so that people can locate you, or if you hear something, so that people can see you. You take matches, and you also take a lighter, just in case you can light a fire. The other thing that you need to have on the outside of your pack and not on the inside is your first aid kit. Let's have a look at what I've got in my first aid kit. This is extremely basic. In my real one is this heavy and looks like that. Again, it's a wilderness first aid one. The very basics of your kit would require, this basic kit would require you to be very creative. But if you're going for a day walk, it might just work. I'd have a multi-tool or a pair of scissors. You got your sunscreen. I have a water filter, or you might want tablets for your water filter. Again, if you get stuck, then you will need water. A snake bite bandage. Now, there are 3 types of snakes in Tasmania, and they are all poisonous. They do not hibernate, they just get slower in winter. This also, though, can be used for other ways. It can be used to stop bleeding. It can be used to strap a hurt ankle or what have you. So that's definitely in there. You always take a space blanket, which is a silver blanket. If you didn't know that these are meant to be close to your skin and are better that way, then maybe you need to come to one of my courses. There is also a sling. I also take a sling, and I take a whole heap of assorted little band-aids and things like that. And for me, I take a Ventolin, and I also take an EpiPen. But in my wilderness first aid kits, which is actually what I really take always, because I can carry the weight, there's a whole list of that. If you want that list, then just sing out to me. They're readily available what you should take, and I'll probably do another video on that. Yeah, and the last thing that I want to tell you about is walking poles. You can see mine broke when I was at Frenchman's, and I actually had to look after it because I never go walking without my poles. Poles aren't for old people, guys. They're also your emergency safety device, and so you should probably be carrying a pair of those, whether it's a day walk or a long walk. Okay, so that's what I would take, my very, very basics. I hope you have enjoyed it. I've done a whole heap of other ones on Bush It with Bonnie on a YouTube stuff, and I'm going to upload a whole heap of that. I want to see more people get out there, and I want to see people being safe. Okay, stay wondrous and wild. See you.